Are you comfortable?
Yes.
Okay. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Jai Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. Jai Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nityalila Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa Pastatara Sata Shri Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mahabhagavad Srila Gaura Das Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhaum Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Shata Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Sarup Damodar Roy Ramananda Adi Gaur Parsada Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sivo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadvipa Dhama Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dvadashavanatmaka Shri Braj Mandala Dhama Ki Jai. Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Kshetra Dhama Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Shri Nrsimha Dev Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charo Dham Charo Sampradaya Charo Acharya Ki Jai. Akara Matraj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Varananya Shaka Mat Samoha Ki Jai. Shri Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Tribhuvana Pavana Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. Tribhuvana Mangala Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Guru Navaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Shuruto Pangor Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Shimad Ratanagar Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Preshtalibhi Sevyamanu Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambhi Vamshivata Tatakstitaha Karshana Venu Swanaira Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prane Devi Sajavachai Namo Namaha Panchatatavaatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namam Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Astotara Sata Sri Srila, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Astatara Sata Sri Srila, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Astatara Sata Sri Srila, Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And my Dandavat Pranams to all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. Yes, so yesterday we again reviewed, for the third time, because there's so much in these verses. And we left off before we began to discuss the necessity of accepting bona fide Guru. So we read the verse Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Keninoi. Who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had told to Ramananda Roy that don't be afraid to speak. because you know all Krishna Tattva. And that's what I've come to you for. So it doesn't matter whether one is a Brahmin, whether one is a Nyasi, that means sannyasi, whether one is a Shudra, doesn't matter. He can be Guru if he knows Krishna Tattva. So Mahaprabhu is basically saying, you are my Guru because you know Krishna Tattva. It doesn't matter what ashram that you are in, what varna you are in. No. Jai Krishna Tattva Veta, say Guru Hoy. He is Guru. If he knows Krishna Tattva. Main quality of Guru. If your Guru does not know Krishna Tattva, how he can be Guru? What kind of Guru is that? There are many other qualifications as well. All throughout the Shastras, many qualifications are mentioned. But the main point that's being mentioned here is that whether one is a householder or sannyasi, one must have a bona fide Guru. It is not possible to proceed forward without having proper Guru. And here, Raga Nuga Marge Tare Bhaje Jai Jan. Yes. Say Jan Pai Braje Rajendra Nandan. This is another verse being quoted from the same chapter. More about 100 verses later from this verse. So here, now, Ramananda Roy is specifying Raga Nuga Marge Tare Bhaje Jai Jan. Here it says, by performing bhajan under the guidance of such a bona fide Guru, one will very quickly attain service to Brajendra Nandan Sri Krishna in Braj. Rag Anuga Marg Tare. We've talked about Raganuga a lot. And Rag Marg, Raganuga Marg means the pathway of Raganuga Marg. So let me check to see if you're up on this, you understand this, because sometimes you've been here and sometimes you've been in LA. But I think you were here when we were discussing about the difference between Raganuga Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti. Right. So the main thing we can say about this is that it is not possible to attain Krishna in Braja. The Krishna who is named Brajendra Nandana, that Krishna. It is not possible to attain that Krishna in Braja, because he is eternally living in Braja, unless one has such a Guru who gives one proper guidance in Raga Nuga Marg, in the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, whereby one will feel very strong greed towards the moods of service that Krishna's eternal associates serve him. The cowherd boys serve him in Sakya-ras. The elderly Gopas and Gopis and Mother Yashoda and so forth, they all serve Krishna in Vatsalya-ras. And the Gopis serve Krishna in conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa, and Srimati Radhika in the highest. Raganuga means that now the attraction to hearing about Krishna in Braj and hearing about his relationships with the Vrijavasis has come to the forefront for the devotee. Now he is no longer guided only by Shastra. Shastra avadaranamayi Shraddha This means Shraddha, faith, that is given, that one has developed faith in the Shastras. Without having faith in Shastra, how can one practice bhakti? One has to have faith that what Shastra is telling, everything about Sambandha, our relationship with Krishna, our relationship, we went over that the other day, 5 different, the triangle, you remember that? The triangle, and maybe you weren't here in our class. Huh?
Yeah, I don't.
There's a triangle. The triangle is this. At the top of the triangle is Ishvara. What does Ishvara mean?
Supreme controller.
Yeah, Ishvara means controller. He's also called Parameshvara. So that entity known as Ishvara, who controls the whole universe, he is on the top of the triangle. Then at the bottom corner of the triangle is Jiva. What is Jiva?
Soul.
What kind of soul?
Spirit soul.
Tell more.
Conditions.
Jiva Shakti. Jiva Shakti. The Jiva, the living entity, is Jiva Shakti. Krishna's energy, his Shakti, his potency. And because we are the potency of Krishna, and because the Jiva is also eternal, therefore we have a relationship with Krishna. And that relationship with Ishvara, meaning Krishna, is the most fundamental in understanding Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of Sambandha. Without knowledge of Sambandha, no one can approach the Supreme. So therefore, Krishna gives all this information in Bhagavad Gita, and it is there throughout the Shastras, that what is our relationship? We are tiny, tiny little spirit soul, like an emanation from Krishna's Jiva Shakti, potency. And Krishna is like the sun, or like a big fire. And so many sparks are coming out of the fire, right? Or like the sun with the rays, and in those rays are tiny particles of light and heat. So the jivas have this relationship with Ishvara, Krishna, who is the supreme controller. We can never be Ishvara. That is bogus philosophy. Mayavadis like to preach that we can become God. We can become Ishvara. Then how did you become not Ishvara? If you could become Ishvara, how did you become not Ishvara? Very foolish statement that the Jiva soul, who's bound by birth, death, disease, old age, and all the whole material nature, are completely controlled. And you're the controller? You can't even stop yourself, control yourself from going to the bathroom. And you're Ishvara? So bogus, rascal dumb, as Prabhupada used to say. So then comes the third part, the third point of the triangle. What is in the third part? Prakriti. What is Prakriti?
Energy.
Yeah, well, what energy? Prakriti is this material nature. Prakriti is the elements, the 8 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. That's called Prakriti. This is Krishna's Maya Shakti, okay? It's a different type of energy than us. Krishna has many different types of energy. So because Prakriti is Krishna's energy, so Prakriti also has a relationship with Krishna, right? If you're the owner and controller of something, then you have a relationship with it. So these 3 are the fundamental entities that comprise what is called Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of relationship. So these three have been very clearly explained all throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, everywhere. So to develop Tattva Gyan and knowledge of Sambandha Gyan, then you have to analyze what is the relationship between Ishvara and the Jiva, then the relationship between Ishvara and Prakriti, then the relationship between the Jiva and Prakriti. So that covers three, okay? But there's two more. The relationship between Jiva and Jiva. There's a relationship between the Jivas, and depends on which position the Jivas are in. But Jivas also have Sambandha. And also Prakriti. The fifth principle of Sambandha Gyan is Prakriti, the relationship between one material object and another material object, and so forth. Prakriti and Prakriti. That's a very deep topic. All of these are deep topics. So that's called Sambandha Gyan. Now, you repeat to me what are the entities that make up Sambandha Gyan? What I just told you. Yeah, use the mic, of course.
Ishvara, then Jiva, then Prakriti.
Mm-hmm.
And then the relationship between Jiva and Ishvara, then Ishvara and Jiva.
Well, that's the same.
Jiva and Jiva.
No, first of all, the 3 points of the triangle you have to tell. Relationship between them first.
The relationship between Jiva and Ishvara?
Yes.
Ishvara and Ishvara and Prakriti?
Yes.
Prakriti and Jiva?
Mm-hmm. 2 more.
And then Jiva and Jiva.
Jiva and Jiva?
And then
Prakriti and Prakriti.
Prakriti and Prakriti.
Okay. So, this is called Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha, knowledge of relationship. So, as one becomes acquainted in this Tattva Gyan by practicing all the rules and regulations given in the Shastras and so forth, then gradually one advances. One's faith develops, one advances, knowledge comes, realization comes. And he's still performing bhakti. He's still performing the 9 limbs of bhakti, Navavida bhakti. But the mood of that bhakti in the stage of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, it is mostly impelled by a type of shraddha which is based upon the rules and regulations of the Shastra. So what does that mean? Like, the Shastras are giving direction that we living entities, we belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're His energy. We belong to Him. We're His property. It is the duty of every living entity to serve and surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the basis of our engagement in bhakti. Because we have faith. What Shastra is describing. Who is the Supreme Lord? We have faith that this is all true. And it becomes the foundation of our spiritual practices and of our spiritual faith. But in the stage of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, one is impelled to perform bhakti, sometimes with some element of fear. If I don't do it, if I don't serve the Supreme Lord, what will happen to me? What will happen to a jiva that doesn't serve the Supreme Lord?
go to hell?
Possibly.
I'll suffer in this material world, threefold
Well,
misery.
they may also go to the heavenly planets without serving the Supreme Lord. They may do Vedic rituals. They may be very pious. But if they don't serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord, they'll gradually fall down from their position. They'll fall down. And yes, eventually they could glide down to hellish conditions, in hellish planets, and so forth. This is knowledge. We know. Just like a criminal knows what the law is, right? A thief or a murderer, they know that that's against the law. They're aware of that. They know this is a law, that if I steal and I get caught, I'll get punished. I'll go to jail or whatever. If I murder someone and I get caught, right? So thieves, they continue on with this awareness that, yeah, at any time I can get caught, then I can get punished, right? But in the same way, there's laws of material nature that one becomes aware of. I never knew about the law of karma before I became a devotee. I didn't know. Because I came from a Christian background, I understood that God is there, that there's heaven and there's hell. Those are your two options. And in Christianity, there's a very strong element of fear. It even states it. One should fear the Lord thy God, because he's so powerful and he's the controller. And if you disobey and you act sinfully, you can go to hell. They have a methodology by which you can be saved from going to hell in Christianity. And what is that? Do you know? You have to believe in Jesus, who is supposed to be the manifestation of God in the flesh, and that he came to die for everyone's sins and accept the reactions to everybody's sins. And if you believe in him, you're saved, even if you're a sinner. See? So it's very much a belief system. But there's not much philosophy there at all. Neither is there even tattva gyan about the soul, how the soul is eternal and so forth. However, people in lower stages, there are different religions in the world by which they adhere to a certain faith that there is a supreme power over me. And some persons are obedient and they try to live their lives in such a way that they will avoid being punished after death, according to Christian philosophy and so forth. You could go to hell. And it's a very frightening thing, extremely frightening, because their conception of hell is once you go there, that's it for eternity. Did you ever hear that in the Christian philosophy? If you go to hell, you're there forever. You lost all your opportunities are gone now. You are condemned forever. Is that not a frightening thing? Sure as hell is. So when I became introduced to the proper, true, eternal philosophy of Sanatana Dharma and the Bhagavad Gita, and how karma is one of the main laws of the universe. Everything is going on by karma, action, what persons do, and then what reactions come. But it was a very, very great relief, I remember, to learn, first of all, that I'm eternal, right? And we are taking bodies after bodies after bodies, millions of lives. And that there is no such thing as what? Eternal what?
Damnation.
Eternal damnation where? in hell. There's no such thing. I was very encouraged to learn that. Can you imagine? Wow, I'm happy. Even if I'm bad, there's always another chance. Okay? You might have to get punished, but it's not forever. Not forever. Actually, I was in the Lutheran Christian faith, right? But in Catholicism, they have a slightly different understanding of after death. You know what their understanding is? Did you ever study this stuff, KK?
I studied more the early American Christian movement, so like...
Oh, like the Amish and all of them?
No, like the evangelists, like Cotton Mather and those people who were like...
Oh.
Like a spider over a fiery pit, and that's you're about to fall into the fire and be damned forever, like that.
Oh, well, they were the heavy evangelistic preachers of fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, what was I saying? The last point I made.
The Catholics have a different...
Yeah, the Catholic. The Catholics, okay, their understanding is that there's hell, there's this world, and there's hell. There's also heaven. But hell, there's another section. There's a place called purgatory. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you know what it is?
It's a waiting place.
Yes. It's a, how would you call it?
Waiting room.
It's like a stopover on your way to hell, right? There's a place where somehow or other you can, and other persons can also do things for you to get you out of hell, right? From the earthly plane, they can do things, which is actually not completely false, because in the Vedic system, there's the whole system of Shrad ceremonies for the deceased ancestors, offering Shrad to the forefathers, to the Pitris. And Shrad, there's also a Vaishnava type of Shrad, but the Vaishnavas understand we don't need to do anything for our forefathers. Because why? The Vaishnavas understand that there's no need to perform Shrad, although there is a Vaishnava Shrad to comfort the devotees that they're doing something, but actually, according to Shastra, if someone is a Vaishnava, a devotee, then what happens to his ancestors and his future generations of descendants?
If you're a Kanishta, what is it, one generation?
No, 7. Yes.
And then Madhyam, 20.
No, double. 14, and then triple.
Uttam is
Uttam.
21 generations.
So what happens?
They're liberated.
What does that mean? Does it mean all of a sudden, poof? No, what it means, Gurudev explained. Okay, so you two are born from your father and mother, who are devotees. Okay, so that's very, very auspicious. But suppose that your parents weren't devotees, but you became a devotee, right? And your parents, they were ordinary karmis. They did so many sinful, some pious activities. They died. Now, there's no way of us to know where they are currently, right? But in the Vedic system, a son is called putra. That's the word for son. Did you know that? A son is called putra. Because the son, the responsibility is on the shoulders of the son, who will offer pinda, certain sacrificial foodstuffs to the forefathers, which will in turn release them from any hellish condition that they're in. Did you know about that? Yes. Yes. But as she just told, a devotee, a Vaishnava, even if they're Kanishta, that they're not like even a Madhyam yet, but they've given their life. It's not that it means somebody who's, just came for a few days or a few weeks or something. It means a Kanishta who's actually given his life, taken Diksha and so forth. Krishna is so merciful that even 7 generations of your forefathers, past and future, are liberated by dint of your being a Vaishnava. This is why in the Shastras, there are great proclamations made that, oh, how fortunate someone in our dynasty has become a Vaishnava. How fortunate we are. So, what does it mean? Gurudev explained, it means that by dint of what you are doing, automatically your past and future, 7 generations past, 7 generations future, they will automatically get sadhu sangha in their life, no matter where they are, no matter what their condition is. They will be given a chance to come to the path of bhakti, and they will be supported. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Jiyo Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev, Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. So, we got onto this topic because I'm describing what is the type of faith, the Shraddha, that a Vaishnava is practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Okay, most devotees are practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Very small percentage have come to the level of Raganuga Bhakti. But still, we have to know about this because this is our aim and objective. It is not possible to go to Goloka Vrindavan. No, not possible. Unless one practices Rag Marg Bhakti in this life or any future life. Yeah.
Is Vaidhi Bhakti always performed out of fear, or can it be mixed with other?
It's mixed. It's not that fear is the predominating element. However, adherence to the rules and regulations, that's called Shastra Avadharanamayi. Avadharanamayi means strict adherence. And in the background, there is some element of fear that if I don't do this, I'll go to hell. Or I'll be punished, you see. But in Raganuga Bhakti, the faith is transformed into a completely different type of Shraddha. You know what it's called? Bhagavat Madhurya Lila Mai Shraddha. Say that.
Bhagavat Madhurya
Lila Mai Shraddha. Repeat after me. Bhagavat Madhurya Lila Mai Shraddha. Say that.
Bhagavat Madhurya Lila Mai Shraddha.
So I'll explain it and then you'll understand how these words fit together. We know that Krishna's pastimes are full of sweetness. That is the nature of Krishna Lila. Full of sweetness. Everyone in Goloka Vrindavan is drowning in sweetness eternally. Okay? Very happy situation. So, you see that the moods of the Brijavasis in the spiritual world, Krishna's associates, is completely merged in Rag. We talked about Rag because Rag Marg, Raganuga. Rag is very, very deep natural attachment and affection. They love Krishna more than their very own life. Okay? And that's the nature of Krishna's eternal associates. They all have that in their own particular rasa. Cowherd boys have that in their own Sakya ras. Gopis have that. Parents of Krishna have. They're all ragatmic. They're full of rag. Now, their relationship with Krishna and the exchange of prem, their prem seva, is full of so much nectar, and they participate in all of Krishna's leelas, as we know. Whatever happens, they're all participating in Krishna's eternal pastimes. And they're merged in this zone of sweetness, of ecstasy. So, Bhagavat Madhurya Leelamai. How Krishna's pastimes, his leelas, are Leelamai, Madhurya Leelamai. They're so full of sweetness. The faith that is called that type of Shraddha, Bhagavat Madhurya Leelamai Shraddha, is imbued with a different mood than the faith that impels someone when they practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. What is that mood? They're so attracted to the sweetness of Krishna's leelas and the moods that Krishna exchanges with his eternal associates. They're so attracted to that. Their hearts are, we're talking about the sadhak. When the sadhak becomes qualified by dint of his attraction to all these sweet moods of Krishna's exchanges with his eternal associates, right? So there is a type of intensive greed that comes into the heart. It's called lobha. Oh yeah, I forgot. Bhagavat Madhurya Leelamai Lobha. Lobha also means greed. You see? Now how does that happen? Here, there's a devotee who's just doing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. It is going on for years and years and years. And of course, his faith, his Shraddha and everything, he's becoming so much purified. Anarthas are becoming purified. And he's going on with his service. But by the association, especially, of a Rasik Vaishnava, and also taking advantage of hearing the descriptions in the Shastras written by these personalities, like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, spoken Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadev Goswami. All of these are full of this sweetness, this rasa. These are rasa shastras, okay? And when a devotee advances more and has the opportunity to hear from such exalted Rasik Vaishnavas, also, not only in this life, but in previous lives. This is stated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In previous lives, that is also the basis for being so fortunate to become attracted and developing this attraction and greed. That I also want to serve Krishna like his associates. That is the beginning, that is the basis of coming into the pathway of Rag Anuga Bhakti. Okay? So there's two types of sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raga Anuga sadhana bhakti. Both are explained by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, in other words, Shraddha is a very fortunate thing for the jiva. Shraddha is a very fortunate thing that someone gets this thing called Shraddha in the heart. We've explained this before, how Shraddha is really a tiny little atomic particle of praying, of Krishna praying. It is a very rare thing, and it comes to a fortunate jiva, Bhagyavan Jiv, fortunate. And by the mercy of Guru and the mercy of Krishna combined together, then one gets Shraddha. And one begins to practice bhakti one begins to associate with sadhu, sadhu sangha, then takes initiation and begins bhajana kriya, and gradually anartana vritti takes place, and then gradually nishta comes. This progression is in both pathways, the pathway of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti as well as the pathway of Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Let me explain that. They can go all the way practically up to the stage of bhav, even in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, but the moods will be different. But gradually it will change in the higher stages through the association of Rupa Nuga Vaishnavas. Then as one advances, then the heart begins to melt, anarthas are taken out, and mercy of Krishna comes. It is only by Krishna's mercy that someone can become so much attracted to Krishna's pastimes. It is his mercy. It is not going on mechanically, that, oh, I've been here this long, and so I should be able to have this. No, it is by Krishna's mercy. Guru Krishna Prasadipai, by attaining the mercy, the prasad, the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So we want, that's why we sing so many songs from our songbook and our acharyas. That's why they've written these songs, is to teach us the moods of how we can long, we can develop this longing for one day being able to serve Radha and Krishna, one day being able to serve Mahaprabhu in his pastimes, and so forth. So this Rag Marg Bhakti is being referred to in this verse, that Raganuga Marge Tare Bhaje Jai Jan. If one does bhajan under the guidance of such a bona fide guru, in the pathway of Raganuga Marg, then Sejan Pai Braje Brajendra Nandan. That person attains Krishna, Brajendra Nandan in Braj. You see. And then what happens? Oh, very wonderful thing takes place. Siddhadehe Chinti Kore Tahai Sevan. Saki Bhave Pai Radha Krishnera Charan. Here's the word Siddhadehe. Siddhadeha. Do you know the meaning? What is Siddhadeha?
Spiritual body?
Yes. What's Siddha mean?
Perfect?
Yes, it means perfected body. That refers to our eternal spiritual form. Because we're eternal jivas, right? So we have an eternal spiritual form. We have not yet attained that, but gradually that eternal spiritual form will be revealed to us. It will gradually be developed in the course of our bhajan life. So now here he's saying a sadhak means practitioner, right? Sadhak. A sadhak who at the time of sadhana meditates upon and serves according to his siddha rupa. What does that mean? That is knowing himself to be a maidservant of Srimati Radhika, knowing himself in his siddha rupa to be a maidservant of Srimati Radhika, then very quickly he attains the service of Radha Krishna in the mood of a Sakhi. This is our process. So at a certain stage, we will attain these moods internally coming from Guru, and we will practice and have some greed to attain this, and we will practice this internal meditation. Siddha Deha Chinti Kore. Chinti means to think about, to be absorbed in. So in that higher stage, we're talking about in the stage of Ruchi and Asakti. Internally, the devotee will be meditating in this way. and perform seva. Tahai sevan. In his sadhana, he will be serving internally, siddha deha chinti, thinking about his eternal spiritual form and performing all the necessary practices which are described in Manasiksha. Manasiksha is the book written by Raghunath Das Goswami, so that devotees who are now entering onto the path of Rag Marg, they will know how to do their bhajan. It is the guidebook. And there are many other books also, but Raghunath Das Goswami, he has put this forward just like this Upadeshamrita in a very concise way. 11 shlokas. Also, Manasiksha, 11 shlokas. We will study this later on so that we become familiar. So in this way, the main point being made by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is that all Vaishnavas, they require a proper guru. Without guru, none of this will take place. You see. So now, is that clear? Anything, question, anything on this? Because I'm going now to the next topic. Okay, if anything comes up, then you can say. So, the next section is saying the necessity for grihastas and tyagis, that means renunciates, the necessity for them to give up bad association. Now this has already been mentioned in previous chapters that we've read, but now everything is being brought to a conclusion by quoting from Mahaprabhu's own pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So now we're going to hear how important it is for grihastas and for renunciates to give up bad association. You know what bad association is? What is bad association? There's a lot of varieties of bad association, isn't there? Yes. And we know what is bad, what is good. But sometimes we go towards the bad. Right? Okay, so now he's explaining. The sadhaka must always associate, the sadhak must always associate with a sadhu. What kind of sadhu? The sadhu who is swajatiya, ashaya, snigdha. What does that mean? This is Rupa Goswami explaining that the sadhu who you're associating with has to be snigdha, which means he is affectionately disposed toward you. That's called snigdha, means affection. So the sadhu has to be like that in order for you to associate with him. Because if he's not disposed towards giving you that kind of affectionate association, it will be not possible for you to get sadhu sangha from him. Do you understand this point? You know? Of course, generally sadhus are always willing, but you have to associate with a sadhu who really wants to give you affectionate association, guidance, help, all of that. That's required for getting association with him. That's what Rupa Goswami, that's why he's told this. And there's two other important qualities. The other quality is called swajatiya. Swajatiya means that he's in the same mood. That sadhu is in the same mood for which the devotee is aspiring to attain. Understand? That means he's a worshipper of Radha and Krishna. For us, that means exclusively a worshipper of Radha and Krishna in Braj, a follower and worshipper of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This must be, because if you're associating with Vaishnavas of other sampradayas, like worshippers of Sitaram and so forth, that technically is not considered the sadhu sangha which is required for you. Yes, of course, it's beneficial, but you have to have a spiritual master who is going to give you his association, either Siksha Guru or Diksha Guru, okay, or both. And they are showing you the pathway to attain, and they themselves are always aspiring to attain that service of Radha and Krishna and Braj, so forth. Yes. And the third quality of the sadhu sangha is that the sadhu is more advanced than you. Because if he's on the same level as you, then it's not technically considered to be sadhu sangha, which is going to enable you to advance. It will be association with those who are your equals and so forth. But here it's talking about the necessity for having higher association. Very, very important. ISKCON made this unfortunate discrimination by saying that we can only associate with the devotees who are in ISKCON. They even wrote one book, one of them wrote a book called Siksha Guru in ISKCON. So, I mean, that's a whole big topic which I could really go very deeply into, because we were always battling against this in all the years that we traveled with Gurudev and everything, you know. And even before that, when I was with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, it's just like decades of ignorance. So, but whatever it is, the determining factor is not what institution, you know, or which mutt a Vaishnava is in that is going to determine whether or not you can associate with him. Was Srila Sridhar Maharaj in ISKCON? Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj? No. He was independent. He was not in the same institution. But in one sense, yes, it's the same, because it's the same family line. Gaur Parivar. Gaur Parivar means the family of Gaur, the family of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. There's innumerable lines. But that institution became very paranoid at a certain point towards the higher, very, very exalted Vaishnavas who are still on the planet after Prabhupada left. And they made probably the most unfortunate mistake in modern history by eventually turning against him and banning. Very unfortunate. And that misfortune is still perpetuated to some degree, although it's changing a little bit, you see. So, but these are the three determining factors. Svajati ashaye snigdhe sadhu sangha svatovare. Rupa Goswami has written this. He must be svajatiya, he must be snigdha, and he must be swatovare, which means in a higher position than yourself. Then it's called sadhu sangha. Now, yes, in his discussion with Rai Ramananda Prabhu, then Srimad Mahaprabhu, he asked of Ramananda Roy some questions. You know, at the end of the Ramananda Roy Samvad, there's a whole questions after questions that Mahaprabhu is asking. And immediately Ramananda Roy is answering. This is one of those questions. Shreyo madhye kon shreya jiver hoy sar. So, Shreyo Madhye means amongst the many types. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ki Jai. So, amongst the many types of good fortune in this world, which one is the best? This is the question that Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy. Now, you know this word Shreya? There's in the first verse of the Sikshastakam, first shloka, then Mahaprabhu is telling Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Shreya means your ultimate good fortune. Shreya. There are two different terms. One is called Shreya and one is called Preya. Preya is what everyone is seeking after in this world, is immediate gratification. Right? Short term. I have money, I buy this, I get sense gratification, like that. Even little children. Little children are always looking for something that will gratify them, and then the other child takes it away and then they start crying, and because that's all called preya. Immediate gratification. But Shreya means ultimate. What will you will ultimately attain. Shreya. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Sikshastakam, he's saying Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. So here he uses a very beautiful poetic analogy. He's saying Shreya Kairava. So Kairava is a lotus flower. There are many different types of lotus flowers and different Sanskrit terms for the different types of lotus flowers. So a Kairava is a lotus flower that blooms from the moonlight. Generally all the lotus flowers are blooming in the daytime and opening from the sunlight. But here Mahaprabhu is saying Chandrika Vitaranam. Means the lotus flower of your good fortune. Understand? Like a poetic. The lotus of your good fortune is caused to bloom and open by Chandrika, the moonbeams of what? Harinam Sankirtan. The rays coming from the moon of Harinam Sankirtan causes the lotus of your ultimate good fortune to blossom. So just so that you know, this is the third benefit out of 7 mentioned by Mahaprabhu in the first verse of Sikshastakam. Okay? And then the second verse through the 8th verse, they're describing these 7 benefits, which also correspond to the stages of bhakti, beginning from Shraddha, Sarasanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha-nivritti, Nishtha, like that. So this third benefit is corresponding with the 4th verse of Sikshastakam, and we already know what the benefit is, that the moon-like rays of Harinam Sankirtan will cause the lotus of your good fortune to bloom. Right? So the 4th verse of Sikshastakam is the verse in which Mahaprabhu is explaining the moods of someone who has come into the stage of ruchi. Ruchi. So, ruchi means taste, right? It's the 4th shloka of Sikshastakam, and it's describing the 3rd effect out of 7. Right? So that 4th verse is where the devotee is praying to the Lord. Mahaprabhu is praying. Nadanam, najanam, nasundarim. Kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. Mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki tvai. You know that verse? Yes? So I'll explain this a little and then we'll have the artik. Here, this is depicting the internal moods of a devotee who has come into the stage of ruchi. Taste. So much taste he has for bhakti, for performing bhajan, for performing the limbs of bhakti. And he thus feels absolutely disinterested and not attracted to anything that is attainable in this world. Na dhanam, no wealth, na janam, na sundari kavitam, no followers, no prestigious position, even liberation. He's saying, Mama janmani janmanishvare. I want birth after birth, he states. Janmani janmanishvare. I want birth after birth, only one thing. Nothing of this world, even going to heavenly planets, everything. All I want is one thing. Bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki twai. That I will attain to you, my Lord, completely causeless, pure bhakti. That's all I want. That in every single lifetime, I will have pure bhakti, not motivated by anything, only for your love. That's all. So that is the stage at which the devotee is now the lotus of his good fortune is opening. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Vitaranam means opening. So when one comes to that stage of Shreya, attaining that, in the stage of Ruchi, there is nothing holding the devotee back at that point. Gurudev has very clearly told us many times that when you come to that stage of Ruchi, now you can gallop. Yes. So, this is why Mahaprabhu is asking this question. Of the many types of good fortune in this world, which is the best? And Ramananda Roy replied, Krishna Bhakta Sangha Bina Shreya Nahi Ar. There is no good fortune other than the association of Krishna Bhaktas. This is the highest good fortune for any jiva in this world. And this is referring to pure bhaktas. So that's our little, we move forward a little bit. Okay, Gaura Premanandi, Shri Upadeshamritam ki jai. Jai Shri Shri Rupa Goswami Pada ki jai. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Pancha Kapadurvascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Two things, remember?
Finish and then share.
Yeah.